Thank you. I'm going to do a quick talk here about security in smart contracts. Oh, there's a presentation slide missing. To give a short presentation about myself, my name is Søren Meilstrup. I am working for a company called Banshie. It's a cybersecurity company doing offensive and defensive services, and we are placed in Copenhagen in Denmark. My background is actually I'm a software developer. I've been working with software development for more than 15 years. 10 of those years I've been developing intrusion detection systems and malware analysis systems. So I kind of know how the attackers work on the default level. But today we're going to talk about blockchains and smart contracts. And for the past 2 years I've been working as a smart contract auditor. So, when we're talking about smart contract security, what do we actually mean about that? The idea about security is to avoid unintended behavior of the smart contract. So you don't want it to pay out anything that it shouldn't do. But in order to talk about all unintended behavior, you actually need to define all the intended behavior. And it actually sounds quite like a requirement specification, but although it is a requirement specification, usually requirement specifications do not specify everything, because it's quite tedious. So if you're going to do the opposite of something which is quite tedious, you'll find something which is even more tedious, and that is like finding all the opposite things. So to simplify things, when we're talking about security in smart contracts, it's about protecting all the digital assets in any way to avoid any direct or indirect economic losses. The consequence of not having security in your smart contract can obviously be seen from the exploits from last year. There was a total loss for more than $3 billion stolen on the blockchains. And these are well-known examples, which include some large losses. You've actually just heard of the FTX loss like 20 minutes ago. A lot after they declared that they went bankrupt, a lot of funds were moved from the company's own accounts, and I'm actually not sure that it's known how the attacker even got hold of the authorization keys. But at least a lot of money was stolen and not under FTX's control anymore, even though there's a lawsuit. In the Ronin network, or the Ronin bridge, an exploit occurred where the attacker came in control of the majority of validator nodes, which made the attacker able to authorize his own transfers and were able to withdraw tokens that he authorized himself. Wormhole, which is also a bridge, the issue there was that they forgot to do some data validation, which allowed the attacker to validate his own signatures, so he could, again, transfer tokens of his own choice. Yeah, I can go on with these. Nomad, which was also a bridge. Let me see. They actually did a small upgrade with a bad side effect that it by default validated unprocessed messages on the bridge. Again, this allowed the attacker, or actually anybody who knew how to do it, to transfer tokens without actually requiring an authorization. Mango Network was a bit of a different hack because the attacker here invested a large amount of tokens himself. Then he did market manipulation to change the price, and in that way, by withdrawing his investment, he could actually empty Mango's liquidity. Then we have again the BNB chain, another bridge attack. Again, a bad validation occurred which allowed the attacker to transfer his own money. So what we're actually seeing here, of course, there's a lot of bridges, I know that. But these issues actually occurred due to design errors in the way the software should work, implementation errors because something was forgotten or implemented in the wrong way, and in configuration errors in how the software was actually configured after it had been deployed or during the deployment. And if we look at these type of attacks, it looks a lot like the traditional way to do software development. This is the traditional waterfall model, as most of you developers probably know. So you have a design phase, an implementation phase, a quality assurance phase, and then you deploy stuff and do some operations on it. Today we use Agile Methods instead, but they just iterate through these phases again and again and again. And after each iteration, or the goal of each iteration is actually to deliver more functionality. Now, security is part, or should be part of the quality assurance. So the question is, why isn't security in focus? So, if we look at quality assurance, most development teams often focus on the requirement specification. Requirement specifications often focus on the functionality, which also limits the quality assurance to only include functional tests. So they may be implemented as unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests, and maybe user acceptance tests. But again, it neglects non-functional testing where security is included. If we take a closer look at the purpose of functional testing, a functional test should ensure that some expected input delivers some expected output or an expected behavior. To test security, you need to do kind of the inverse of that. So you need to ensure that no input exists at all, which will trigger some unexpected behavior. And again, if that unexpected behavior can be exploited, then you have a security issue. So, to get security, you need to be faster than the attacker, because if a hacker can find such a security loophole, then he can steal everything. And on the blockchain, he can often do it in one transaction. So there's no stopping when he has stolen the vault. So how do we... Oh, there's a timer. How do we actually avoid this, or how do we get better at this? It's actually quite easy, and it's almost by the book. It's actually just to do things right. To do things right, you actually need the right people in your team, because they have expert knowledge on each aspect, or they should have expert knowledge on each aspect that they work on. There is no one-man army in this, so it is important that each role in the team also has the focus on their specific purpose. They are not all needed all the time, but they need to be brought in when needed. Furthermore, when we look at security, a lot of mistakes occur because the code isn't understandable. You saw the upgrade error that I mentioned before on Nomad. So it's quite important to write maintainable code and understandable code for us to read and not to make mistakes. Furthermore, it's very important to use continuous integration with automated unit testing and static analysis to just clean out all the default issues. As an auditor, I really don't like to read code which is obvious is wrong. I'm actually not doing the basic stuff. I want to do the more non-trivial stuff. So that's where these security audits are coming in. And the security audit should actually take place before each deployment, because if an upgrade includes a vulnerability, well, then you have lost. We don't have time for the examples, I can see. So I would say thank you for listening. And if you have any questions on smart contract security, feel free to contact me afterwards. Thank you.